If you are a fan of Ayn Rand's writings, you likely know that she wrote the screenplay for The Fountainhead, adapted from her novel, made into a movie with Gary Cooper and Patricia Neal. If you're a bigger fan, you likely know that she wrote the screenplay for Love Letters, based on another writer's novel, and that it was made into a movie with Jennifer Jones and Joseph Cotten. And if you're still more knowledgeable, you likely know about the movie You Came Along, where she and another screenwriter both received credit, the other writer having originated the story, and with the lead roles played by Elizabeth Scott and Robert Cummings, with two other actors in significant roles. You may also know about a two-part Italian production of Ayn Rand's novel We the Living, filmed in 1942, and that Alida Valli and Rosanna Brazzi starred in it. There were many more actors selected to play Ayn Rand characters, actors who were never filmed performing those roles. That's what you'll learn about in this video. You'll see them perform roles which demonstrate their abilities to handle Ayn Rand stories. Ayn Rand's first professional sale was her story Red Pawn, bought by Universal in 1932. The Los Angeles Times reported this sale. There's an error here. 2 weeks later, the same newspaper reported that Red Pawn had been approved by the studio's story committee. The Times reported, accurately, that the Red Pawn story is one of Russian political prisons. Variety limited its report on Red Pawn to it being one of two films intended for a particular star after the actress finished her current film. Neither newspaper story mentions it, but Fox Film the prior year made a film about an innocent woman's abuse by Russian officials and Russian policy. The Yellow Ticket. Hollywood had realized that there was drama in events of 20th century Russia. Tempest had been an extravagant production 4 years earlier, at the end of the silent film era. The great John Barrymore had starred as a military officer in Tsarist Russia who was invited by aristocrats to be a guest at a party for the wealthy. He romances a daughter of his host. The revolution comes. Scruffy proletarians, worn down by envy, rejoice in embarrassing the former aristocrats, dehumanizing them. A scoundrel elevates himself into a leadership role of the communist regime and uses it to decide the fate of the former aristocrats paraded before him, choosing instantly verdicts of life or death. His habit becomes throwing down his arm to pound paper with a rubber stamp indicating death. Barrymore has also risen to an important role, but his conscience won't allow for his one-time betters to be treated so capriciously. He puts a stop to the death verdicts. Depictions of the barbarity endemic in the Soviet system had been rare during the era of silent movies, and afterward it remained so in the early 1930s, when Ayn Rand sold her story, which could be filmed with a small cast and modest sets. At the end of 1932, Warner Brothers would release its own film about people caught up in the turmoil of the Soviet takeover, Scarlet Dawn. That release was still in the future when the family who owned and ran Universal planned for their star Tala Burrell to headline more films, including Red Pawn, after the one she was doing then, Nagana. Universal was banking that Tala Burrell would be to Universal what Greta Garbo was to MGM and Marlene Dietrich was to Paramount. Box office returns from several films proved that Burrell was instead what Anna Sten would be to Samuel Goldwyn. Tala Burrell convincingly portrayed women of proud European sensibilities and grim determination, as we'll now see. We catch up with her 12 years later and see she still played bold, unyielding women.
I'll not forget. If you don't give up that insane idea of marrying Patricia Lawrence, I'll tell the truth about you.
You would not dare.
Oh, yes, I would. I'm tired of it. I can't stand it any longer, do you hear me? I can't stand it!
In a 1943 role, she showed she could appear lighthearted and carefree, characteristics which shine through the bad dialogue.
Well, I know she's bringing me my captain.
Your captain? How do you get that way? He's mine.
Oh, yeah? Wait till tonight and I'll show you whose captain he is.
Yeah? You and who else?
I think you're asking for a punch in the nose. What did you mean, Marge? Yeah, there's something in the air that makes you feel that something's going to happen. the meaning of the drums?
You got me, sister.
Nobody's going to make a fricassee out of little Christine.
Only 2 months after buying Red Pawn, Universal put Ayn Rand to work, likely without creative input, on a screenplay called Black Pearl, for which background film had already been shot in Tahiti, Bora Bora, and elsewhere in the South Pacific. Where Variety says Ayn Rand was assigned to continuity, industry people understood it meant she would perform detail-oriented tasks such as assuring the script was properly formatted to prevent scheduling foul-ups and prevent errors of detail from being filmed. Black Pearl was never made, but its story may not end there. The cameraman sent to the South Seas by Universal may have photographed these background shots for Universal, or he may not have. He is connected to this footage as director and co-photographer of the movie in which these shots appear, Island Captives. Kirshner's connection to both films suggests that Kirshner, with no previous director credits, was able to get Island Captives made by low-budget production company Falcon Pictures after securing a deal whereby Universal sold at modest cost the right to use the scenery footage which had gone unused the past 5 years. The writers of Island Captives were not carryovers from the Universal project, and of course they wouldn't have had any material thought up by Ayn Rand while at Universal, even if she had put any idea of her own there to paper, or even if the other writers wanted her ideas.
Carson's a fool. He'll either join our combine or suffer the consequences.
I don't understand. What do you mean, suffer the consequences?
My boy, your uncle and I have built up one of the largest canneries in the world. And there's many a time we've had to use force to gain our end.
Depictions of businessmen like these would be something that Ayn Rand sought to stamp out through her writing.
You make me sick. Don't you realize he grows the best grade of fruit on any of the South Sea Islands? And if we don't get it, someone else will.
Ayn Rand had not been the last to work on the script at Universal. 3 weeks after her assignment to it, a new screenwriter was named, and 8 months later, yet another in what Variety recognized was a project which had licked many writers. On the same page of the trade paper as the report that a new writer was hired for Black Pearl 8 months after Ayn Rand's name was associated with the script, there appears an oddly related item. Within a few years, Hollywood would cease mounting major productions with stars of John Barrymore's magnitude depicting the evil that collectivist ideology leads to when put into practice. Key Hollywood personnel would see to that. The name given on this page as president of the Screenwriters Guild is John Howard Lawson, who would become one of the Hollywood 10, part of the movement of communists in Hollywood who would use their connections and influence to get other communists into studio contracts and to keep anti-communists from getting writing assignments. Ayn Rand was to become a victim of the leftist abuse of their powers. But in 1933, Rand had a few years before the virulent communists of the industry closed in on their political adversaries. First, Ayn Rand sold Red Pawn, and less than a year later, she made a second sale, Penthouse Legend, which you may know only by its best-known title, Night of January 16th. Rising MGM star Myrna Loy was the planned headliner for Penthouse Legend. Ayn Rand wasn't yet known, hence the typo. Myrna Loy at this time was playing man-stealer roles, aggressive, only partially concealing it with feminine allure.
Tom, I think it's selfish of us to keep him.
Selfish?
Well, we're certainly depriving him of any chance he ever had to make anything of himself.
I'm awfully fond of him.
You must be, to ruin whatever chance in life he might have.
I wouldn't do that to Red, you know I wouldn't.
You're doing it, though. What possibly could be more degrading to a man than housework? It's just that in your delightful, casual way, you've never thought of his side.
Men have only wanted one thing from me. I've just made them pay.
Red Pawn was poised for production again the summer of 1934. As reported here, Red Pawn was one of 2 prospective films for Marlene Dietrich. This newspaper item from the Hartford Courant, of Hartford, Connecticut no less, reported Ayn Rand's name as writer. Paramount was Ayn Rand's employer this time, Paramount being Marlene Dietrich's studio and the new owner of the Red Pawn property after Universal traded it while phasing out Tala Burrell films. Paramount put Ayn Rand on salary to write, but unlike Universal, did not keep her around to shape another screenplay once the Red Pawn assignment was finished. The first professional performance of an Ayn Rand work occurred when Ayn Rand's play Woman on Trial was presented on stage in a Hollywood live theater. Woman on Trial was a new title for Penthouse Legend. In between having the titles Penthouse Legend and Woman on Trial, the play had one more, a nearly meaningless one at that. Events in the play were suggested by the suicide of industrialist Ivar Kruger in March 1932. The suicide of Kruger had been dramatized previously in a movie titled The Match King, which Warner Brothers rushed to the screen before 1932 was out. Its story is much different from that of Ayn Rand's play. 4 movie studios were reading Ayn Rand's play within a week of the play premiering. Warner Brothers was one of 4. Though Warner's had released The Match King less than 2 years earlier, Ayn Rand's script would have demonstrated to them that her story was sufficiently different from Warner's 1932 dramatization of Kruger that his second movie would be marketable. Barbara Bedford had been a leading lady in silent films, such as this one from 1925, before she became the first actress to play an Ayn Rand heroine before an audience, some 9 years after this movie, in that Hollywood stage production of Woman on Trial. Barbara Bedford had minor parts in insignificant sound films, such as the one we'll see and hear next, from the same year as Woman on Trial.
Yes. I'll be in the classroom when your train leaves tomorrow.
Boy, stop that fighting. Oh, my God.
In view of the emergency, I would suggest that Safety Committee Man Hall be commended for zeal in the faithful and courageous performance of his duty.
The actor playing the butler is E. Clive, who produced Woman on Trial, ran the theater, and was a supporting player in major and minor films. Here he explains finding a body.
What do you know about it? I woke about 2 o'clock, sir. It was very warm, so I got up and opened the window. I saw the light from the library shining on the lawn, so I came downstairs. I thought Mr. Henry was asleep. I shook him very gently, but he wasn't asleep. So I called Miss Elsa.
A few minutes ago, I asked you whether you saw or heard anyone last night. You answered, not exactly.
Well, sir, I told you that I woke up shortly before 2 o'clock. But I woke before that, around midnight, I believe. I was awakened by voices. A voice, anyway.
A New York production beckoned after the live Hollywood production of Woman on Trial ended its short run. Producer Al H. Woods selected yet another title for what had been Woman on Trial, The Night of January 16, which, with slight change, became its best-known title thereafter. The leading lady named in the story, Vera Ingalls, had done several low-budget films for faltering Hollywood studios, but nothing significant there. Here's Vera Ingalls in 1935.
You dirty double-crossing gigolo, you!
What's wrong?
So, you wanted to run off with the bankroll, huh? Where's that money?
Ingalls could alternate between playing guilty and innocent, or hard to tell. It was important in The Night of January 16th that the lead actress play her role so that the audience couldn't tell whether she was innocent or guilty, because at each performance a jury drawn from the audience determined her verdict.
And you promised me to be honest.
I've kept my word.
Have you, Gil? It might make all the difference in both our lives.
I've gone straight.
Why those mysterious meetings with the Chinamen?
Business.
And what are you planning to do to that young man, that American? Yes, I heard.
Too bad somebody doesn't take that dog of hers away.
You may have your wish.
And that means?
Would you like a vacation to Europe?
Europe?
Mm-hmm.
You gonna take the car?
Taking you. I came out here to marry him. My boat arrived here 3 days ago. Mr. Burns didn't meet me, but he left me a message that I should meet him in Macau. He was kind, considerate. Everything seemed to be all right. See, Mr. Burris with me at his office. Give him a chance to explain.